I've had the idea for a while to talk about some of the art books and video game magazine strategy guides that I've collected, and I figured I'd start with Patlabor. I just picked up this Patlabor 35th anniversary art book collection, and then I have some older Patlabor art books, and I wanted to go through and review both because Patlabor, I think, is a very interesting and overlooked series. And we'll take a look at some of the differences between these two collections. So we'll start with the older ones, we'll move on to the newer ones. So the first Patlabor art book that I ever picked up was this Dragon Magazine special Patlabor Pulsation art book. And these art books are by the original artist, Akemi Takada, and they consist of a series of airbrushed kind of slice of life drawings from the show, interspersed with some reflections from the artist, and using Google Translate, it's mostly sort of how she conceived of drawing the different characters, and kind of at what point in her life she did and what she was thinking when she was putting this collection together. So Patlabor is interesting. Patlabor is a mecha anime and manga series, but it's a little bit less grand and bombastic than the mainstays like Gundam. It's really about this ensemble cast, and I think it actually works very nicely. I have always been a fan of Patlabor because it's very relaxing. It's one of the shows that I can kind of put on and drift off into sleep, which doesn't make it seem particularly exciting, but as an insomniac, it kind of works for me. Now, a lot of both of these books really are focused on the main character, Noah, who honestly I've always found a little bit annoying, and I just like to focus kind of on the other characters. But you can see there's this nice kind of airbrushed look. It's got some fan servicey stuff as you move through. And then the second part of the book is more of a cel-shaded look. And I think this is kind of the most impressive portion of both of these older books. Some really nice artwork, and as somebody who collects magazines and art books and things like that, I've always found, interestingly, that the older stuff, the stuff from the 80s and 90s, has a print quality that is far superior to what we have today. And you kind of see that here with a lot of these artworks. And of course, you have that 80s nostalgia, kind of like this Apple computer takeoff here. And as you kind of progress through the cel-shaded stuff, like a lot of this has also been used on some of the later Blu-ray releases. And they finish up with some panels from the manga series. It's pretty much the same deal with this next one, which is Patlabor Air. Same style, same company, same layout. But the slice of life stuff is, I think, what the fans were kind of going for at the time. This one is even more heavily focused on the Noah character. And like I said, not really my favorite, but I, again, always gravitate to these more saturated, cel-shaded sections. This is a great one, kind of got the Tokyo cityscape, the guts of a destroyed labor. And to me, these hold up really, really nicely. You get the kind of interior shot with the cat. Again, that ensemble cast. For an old book, this has been preserved really, really well. This was, I believe, a Blu-ray cover fairly recently. And then again, you're ending with some panels from the manga. So I didn't know what to expect when I picked this book up. I saw this at a Japanese bookstore outside New York City, and I was like, you know what? I have to find this and pick this up. It's a book series, you have character drawings, and then you have a book kind of dedicated to, it says mechanic, but sort of all the technology in the show. So let's get both of these out. We will start off with the character guide here. And I gotta admit, I was underwhelmed by this. Basically what this is just what I would call character studies from the entire show. Notice the lack of color, the lack of any sort of stills from the show, things like that. It's somewhat underwhelming. Now, if you are an artist, if you're somebody who's in love with all these characters, you know, then it might be something fun. But it's, aside from, you know, little blurbs, it's pretty low on text, pretty low on insight. But again, if you've kind of made your way through the whole series, this might be significant to you. Now, as far as this compilation, this anniversary edition goes, the most interesting aspect is this mechanic archives. So it's not just the robots, although there's a lot of robot drawings. It's every bit of technology from the show, from the most, you know, sci-fi, over-the-top stuff to the most mundane aspects. Like every car that appears in the series is in here with interior shots. I mean, it would take quite some time to go over everything, but you know, if you love the robots or the labors, you will get that. If you love weaponry and kind of 80s military stuff, you'll have that. I'm a car enthusiast, so I like seeing the old school cars or takeoffs of cars. But I mean, you have, you know, again, bicycles, guns. I want to get further on in here so to show you some really interesting stuff. One of the reasons why I think this is incredibly unique. Again, binoculars, phones, they've got like mock-ups of old computers, laptops, fax machines. It is very nostalgic if you grew up in the 80s, as I think the whole show is. But as you move further on in the book, you get something that I have not seen in a lot of Patlabor material, and quite frankly, I don't even recall this from the show, and that's the interior shots of the labors themselves. And it is a nostalgic 80s vision of this kind of technology. They have it for any number of the robots that appear in the show, and you just kind of have to go through, again, like an old school telephone drawing. I love that. But as you move through the book, you will see these military interiors. You can see here for the different labors, friend and foe. And I think it's just an incredibly unique thing that I have not seen in other Patlabor material. So this is a fairly expensive collection. I want to say that they sell both separately. The price for the whole thing is anywhere between $60 and $100, but if you can find the mechanical archive separately, I think that is the way to go. And if you like these kind of videos, if the format works, if the visuals are clear, let me know, because I do have quite a few other art books, strategy guides, and magazines to present.